Hi, I'm Debbie. Now there are many different ways to fit a zip into a pillow cover. I find fitting one right in the centre of the back of the pillowcase the easiest and the most simple way of doing this. Don't use this in dressmaking, but it's certainly the easiest way of doing it in your pillow. So let's take a look at how we're going to do it. The fabric for the front of my pillow is around about 1 inch larger than the pillow pad itself, and that's cut into a square. But the fabric for the back of my pillow is cut to the same length, but this time it's in a rectangle, and I've cut the fabric in half and I'm going to sew it back together again, but you'll understand why, because this is where the zip's going to go into the back. So I need to measure exactly where my zip is going to go, and I'm just going to mark onto the centre of the fabric just below each end. And this is a water erasable pen, so I can take this away with water when I've finished. Just a little tip for you, I've sewn together the edge of the zip, the end of the zip, and that means that I can move that slider out of the way as I'm sewing around it, but without the zip opening up. Okay, I'll put that to one side for now. What I'm going to do is, with my sewing machine, put a straight stitch around about 1/2 inch from the edge, but on the top 2 ends, I'm going to use a small stitch. When I get to where the mark is, I'm going to stop, I'm going to lock the stitch and then change to a long stitch, which is a basting stitch, because this is the stitch that's going to come undone afterwards. So again, around about 1/2 inch from the edge of the seam, down to my next mark, reverse back, onto a smaller stitch, and then carry on to the end. And always reverse back when you come to the end of your work, because that'll help to stop your stitches from coming undone. What I would do now is to take this over to the iron and press the seam open. But for speed's sake, I'm just going to use my fingers and crease that back. Then take your zip, lay it in between those marks that you just popped on there, and then I'm going to put a few pins all the way around. I like to use glass head pins. The reason being they're nice and easy to see, so if I drop them on the floor, I can identify them. But it also means that if I'm ironing with the pins in place, the heads aren't going to melt onto my work. So I'd pin that all the way around, and then taking a needle and a contrasting coloured thread, I'd then like to tack as well. So I'll do a hand stitch to hold that zip in place. And the reason I like to tack as well is because when I come to sewing on the sewing machine, I don't want the sewing machine to distort the stitches around my pins. But I've already finished a piece to show you here. So that's all hand tacked and the pins have come out, making sure that the zip's facing downwards over the top of the seam. Pop your zipper foot onto your sewing machine and simply sew all the way around that rectangle. So I'm going to start with the needle in the down position. I'm just using a straight stitch and keeping this as straight as I can. I'll sew all the way around the rectangle of the zip. I'm using the coil of the zip bumped up against the edge of my foot as a guide. Stop just before you get to the end, or when you get to the part that has been marked as you did previously, and just take it easy as you sew over the teeth of the zip, but that should be fine for your sewing machine, and then straight back down the other side. So when you've finished sewing all the way around, you take out of those tacking stitches, and then you'll need your quick unpick, which normally comes with your sewing machine, and just with the stitches over the top of where you've sewn the teeth of the zip, gently tear those away. Now be careful not to snip into the fabric as well, because you'll have a hole and have to start again. Trim away all of your excess threads while you're there as well. And then when you come to the end of your zip, there's the slider, and there's your zipper, open and closed. Then all you need to do is to sew the front of the pillowcase onto the back of the pillowcase, but have a look at another tutorial to see how to do that. So there we go, all pressed, zips all finished, and that's my finished pillow pad.